and I would recognize him, but I might not happen to be looking at that at that moment. That sounds good. At that table, yes, except he'll probably come out here and collect questions, but most of the time he'll be there. Sure. That sounds really good. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, sometimes when I'm giving other people a warning, I'm going, oh, geez, you didn't do it yourself. I'm thinking of my own. I don't get a whole lot of messages. My kids are 20-something. So we saved you those two seats with the pink paper. Oh, okay, okay. Oh, that's right. You told me that. Oh, yes, I've got that written in there. Yeah. The two pink sheets. Oh, is that right? Last night? Last time. Oh, yeah. I think it's so funny that I write out a script and there's always something to change. And I never read it word for word anyway, but I have it all down there because standing up in front of people, you go, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, page 2. You know this, yes. Page 2. Oh. Yep, it's a normal thing, yeah.
Then what are you going to do with it?
Put it up, just play that to me.
How do you get that on the internet?
Go to www.pride.tv. I'll shoot you a link.
Okay, that's great.
And then when you're there, it's under community events.
I don't know, but I have those too. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. My comfortable pants, my blue jeans and sweatpants and all that, they all have pockets. And I've got that. I don't get that. It's really stupid. No, I don't either. What's that? Okay. Yeah, looks like it's just well,
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. As part of the American way and just keeping our republic healthy, we're trying to get everyone to actively participate in these systems so that we can actually be informed voters and not just, go with publicity and signs and random information. So let's get it straight from the horse's mouth. And that's what tonight is all about. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for participating. I think it's very exciting, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for coming out, and Snow Isle Regional Libraries, and especially the Friends of the Snow Isle Regional Library, Sultan Library, for all the cookies and coffee. So yay to them. But to start the evening off, I'd like to ask everyone to please stand and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our production team. Tonight's event will be live streamed on Turk Pride TV, and that is, our producers tonight are Kristen and Ben Ollis from Sultan High School under the direction of Dave Moon. Sultan High School cheerleaders get props for setting up the room for us. But with that, I would like to turn the evening over to Jody Troutwine of the League of Women Voters. Here she is.
Well, the League of Women Voters, it's our pleasure to do this with you because what Debbie was saying about wanting to keep democracy rolling along the way we want to see it, this is exactly right. We want all the candidates' opinions to be heard so that choices can be made. So we like to do this, and our group has come out mostly from Edmonds-Everett area, so I'm just going to ask our League of Women Voters people who came along with me if they would just stand a minute. So we have our timers up here, Lynn Carpenter and Clyde Kramer, yeah. And back at the table, we have Pat Fogarty Kramer, Steve Troutwine, that I know really well, Steve Troutwine, and Cindy Norman. Sorry, didn't say that right. So thank you for inviting us to work with you, Sky Valley. We appreciate it. Now, knowing that those are league members might be important in a minute, so hang in there with me. So again, I want to welcome you too. Debbie did too. And in the Edmonds-Everett area, we work with Snow Isle Libraries that are over there. They're a great partner to work with, so we really like that. And we want to thank Sultan School for having us here. It's also important for our young people to be involved as producers or to get a chance to watch it. So anyway, most of you probably know this first announcement better than I do, but in case you don't, the restrooms are down that hall there. Very important thing. We've already had about an hour of meet and greet, and we're moving into the time where the candidates will give us statements and answer questions. On your arrival, you got an agenda, looks like this, and we may not be exactly with that to the minute, but we'll kind of try to follow that, so hopefully we'll be out of here by 9 o'clock. And also you got a piece of paper if you had a specific questions for specific ones of the races. So if you had a question for the mayoral candidates or city council. So if you have a question like that, would you just hold yours up and our league people will come and collect those from you now? Does anybody have that? Oh, here's one over here. Okay, also, if you should have a question during the forum, it's our policy that I would ask the questions. And so if you would have a question during the forum, if you would just hold your sheet up and kind of look over in the direction of these folks at the table, they'll try to keep an eye out, gather that up. We can't guarantee we'll get to every question, but we will get to as many as we can. Yes?
We have extra sheets sitting in some of the chairs in the central area of the audience.
Okay, I see. Those of you who have it, would you just raise your hand a minute, just so everybody else can see? All right, great. So if you need one, just slip over and grab it. That would be great. Okay? Now, another thing I wanted to ask, are there any members of the media attending aside from the Sultan High School folks? Okay, and you are with the monitor and, oh, you were stretching. Okay, all right. So we have a representative here from the monitor, okay? And I want to remind everybody what you hear at every kind of public meeting, and that is to turn off your cell phone. You're not allowed to take pictures. And you know what? I had to really pay attention myself because I get text messages all the time from my 20-somethings, right? Please don't take any text messages. The idea is we don't have any of that going on to distract us from paying attention, okay? Okay, everybody turn those all over. Then, all right, I want to tell us just a little bit about the league. We got started back when women got the right to vote. And people said, gee, you know, if women are getting the right to vote, they need to know about what the issues are. They need to not just take the word of their husband and vote the way their husband says, okay? And so the league was formed to provide education specifically for women, but it's not just that. And anymore, as you see, we have a couple of men who've joined us who are part of our league group. And the idea is that league is a group that provides education. So when we provide a forum like this, we give equal amount of time to all of the candidates running for a particular race, and we ask them the same questions. Also, we don't take a position on other type of issues unless our league, either nationally or statewide, has studied those. So you can know that if we do take a position on an issue, it's been studied very hard because our point of view is that it should be educational. Okay, and we partnered with Sky Valley and Snow Isle Public, and then in Edmonds, I don't know if this will be something that some of you will want to do, but since the county executive candidates were not able to come here tonight, there is a forum in Edmonds on October 15th that is for the county executive candidates, if you would want to come over to Edmonds Community College. And you could get more details about that at our League of Women Voters Snohomish County website, which is on several of the materials that are at the table, if you would want to do that. It will be televised through Edmonds Community College too, and that will be out somewhere at some point. I don't know that part yet. Okay, on your seat, you probably found, some of you, a bookmark for the vote411.org. And this is, now you're coming here, so you may not need this as much as other people, but for the future, Vote 411, you can go in, you put your address, your zip code and all, and it brings up all the races that you have, and the candidates have been asked particular questions and given an equal opportunity to respond to those, so you can see what the candidates would have to say. So that's a very useful resource. Take those if you want those, or just jot down the website. Okay, we have a few other league materials at the table. And then one other thing before we're ready to get started, and that is I know have at least one other candidate in the audience who's not here for the forum. Would you want to introduce yourself? Okay, so we thank you for coming and finding out about all these candidates too. Okay, so your agenda has the names of the candidates, and I'm not sure that I'm pronouncing them correctly, but I'm going to try to do that. And what we're going to do, the format is going to follow what's on your agenda. We're first going to hear from the assessor, then we're going to hear from the city council candidates, and finally we'll hear from the mayor and mayoral candidates. And what will happen, and candidates, when I was speaking to you, I left out the last part of this, so hang in there. Each race, we will start with each candidate being able to give a 2-minute statement, and then they'll sit down, and then we'll start with the questions for that race, and whoever gets asked the question first will have 90 seconds, and whoever gets it second or later will have 60 seconds, because they will have had 90 seconds to hear what the other person, while the other person is talking, to think while the other person is talking. So that's how we'll proceed, and our timekeepers up here will keep very close time of that, and when they get close to the end of the time, they will hold up a yellow sign, which will mean 20 seconds left, and when they hold up a red sign, that means you're done. Okay, that's the end of that time period, okay? Then after we've had the question and answer period of time, each candidate, this is the part I left out when I talked to you, will have a 1-minute opportunity to give a final statement. So if your opponent has said something you want to clarify or whatever, then you could do that at that time. Okay, do we have any questions? Okay, any other candidate questions that we need collected? All right, then let's ask the county assessor people to come up to this first table. Okay, before we start this particular race, one of the things that came up, not as a question for the people, but a question about the role of county assessor, came from Debbie before we even started to ask these questions. So I was just going to take a minute to say that the role of the assessor is not a partisan office, meaning that they do not have well, they might be a Democrat or Republican, but they don't state that, and their office and their work is not terribly political. So I was going to say that, and then also just to read to you that this is what the county assessor does. It's the responsibility of the county assessor to administer the tax laws of the state of Washington and to value all property subject to taxes as mandated by the Washington State Legislature. It is also the responsibility of the assessor to calculate the levies imposed by the various taxing districts and additional special levies for which the people have voted. The assessor also must maintain public records of each tax parcel and the assessed valuation. So if people weren't exactly sure what that all was, that's what the assessor does. Okay, and what we're going to do is start on this race. So alphabetically, Linda Helly, is going to go first, and Mark Glazer. Did I get that right? Marty Glazer. So first, Linda will have 2 minutes for her statement.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm really pleased that I get an opportunity to speak with all of you tonight. Am I close enough to the mic?
Can you hear her?
Okay. What I'd like to share with you is I have been in the assessor's office for over 26 years, and for the past 12 years, I've served as Cindy Portman's chief deputy, meaning I have helped to manage the office for the past 12 years. I started an entry-level position, clerical staff, and was able to move through a variety of positions, and in doing so was able to learn and gain experience within all the divisions within the assessor's office. I really like what I do. I enjoy the people that I work with. They do a great job. If you look at our website, there's information out there telling you more about what we do and also how we do the work. The people within the office are professionals, and they are happy to answer your questions, both in the field and in the office as well. What that provides as well is hopefully confidence that you might have in the work that we do, in setting values that are fair and equitable and are based on sales information. Within our office, I also have experience. We have a staff of 62 individuals, and I've written and managed a budget of over $7 million for the past couple of years. Actually, I've written the budget for the past 12 years. In doing so, that also takes a great deal of knowledge of experience in working within a government agency. So I have that to offer you, and it's been a successful leadership experience. In efficiently and effectively running the office with these individuals, some proven efficiencies within our office that we've implemented will show in the statistics that you can find through the Department of Revenue. 20 seconds. The Department of Revenue provides oversight for our office. So we actually have a very low parcel count per employee. So we have people that are doing a whole lot of work and with limited staff. That's been a challenge, but it's also shown that we've been able to utilize technology to provide the work efficiently and to do a great job. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I forgot to say, let's just hold our applause till the end of the evening because it can take up a lot of our time. So we'll save that. She did a great job, but we'll move on. Okay, sorry. Marty, you would be next for your 2 minutes.
Okay. My name is Marty Glazer. I have never been a county employee or an elected position before. I'm an independent real estate appraiser, have been appraising property in Snohomish County for almost 30 years. I'm state certified, have been since 1991. I have my own business and have had that business for 23 years, Martin Appraisal Services. I believe that the assessor's position is a position that requires a background in real estate appraisal. I think that my opponent has had plenty of years working in a government office, and she may be well-versed in the segregation department or the parcel search department or the customer service department, but she's never appraised property. The assessor's position, the assessor by definition, is one who appraises property for tax purposes. And as such, I believe that the assessor should be well-versed in what's going on in the market. They should be acquainted with property types. They should be acquainted with neighborhoods, construction qualities. They should be able to go out and do appraisals. And when I was saying that I wanted to run for the assessor's office and I met my opponent, she said, well, the assessor doesn't actually appraise property. And I said, I know. I think that's the problem. Because what was happening in the 2008, 9, and 10 when property values were dropping down, 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 the assessor's values were continuing to go up, up, up. And at that time, I was doing tax appeal work, and I was going to the assessor's office and the Board of Equalization and saying, this property is not worth this. How can you say that these properties are worth this? Here's all these sales that show that it can't be sold for that. The common theme in the Northwest MLS was price below assessed value. And when I brought my data in, they said that data is not relevant because we determine what's the market sale, not you. So therefore, you lose and we win. The properties stay at high value, so people couldn't sell their homes, and we're losing them. Thank you.
Okay. Now, what we go to the question and answer part, then we will go in reverse order. So Marty will have the first opportunity for 90 seconds for the first question. And this is kind of a combined question having to do with either if you want to think about it as your priorities or the two most pressing issues, what would you say are the two most pressing issues facing the assessor's department? And that could include your priorities or just what you know about the assessor's office.
Yeah. The main priorities that I see is educating and training the appraisers who actually do the inspections. Because I do appraisals every day, I see continual errors, inequities, inconsistencies between the assessed value and what they have for the assessed value versus the sale price. Sometimes it's really super high, sometimes it's really low. It just seems to be very inconsistent. So I think training the staff and making sure that they are doing the appraisals in a fair and adequate way is one of my high priorities. Another priority is making sure that people in the community know what's going on with market trends and getting the word out to people and telling them about senior citizen exemptions, and also talking about tax issues when something's going to be voted on and how that will affect them. So I think that that's something that needs to be more broadly put out there to the public. And so those are the things that I think are the main issues.
Okay. Yeah, he's done. Okay. So
I
then
didn't know how long I had a timer on.
it's a little hard to judge sometimes, but
Okay.
you're okay. All right,
Okay.
Linda, you would be next. 60 seconds.
All right. Two pressing issues. One is doing more with less. We've had for several years, our budget has been reduced, and you've probably read in the paper, again, we are seeing reductions for this next year. So we are valuing 300,000 parcels every year with a staff of 62. And when our budget is reduced, it's really difficult to be able to figure out how are you going to continue to provide that level of service with less resources. So that's been a challenge as well. With 85% of our budget is in staff, so salaries and benefits. Ways to do that is to utilize technology. Ways that I foresee our office doing that even more so than we have in the past is utilizing our GIS division, which is the Geographical Information Systems, our mapping system. Being able to connect our mapping system more fully with our appraisal practices, with our actual CAMA system, which is Computer Assisted Mass Appraisal System, so that you can see things visually. So you can actually look and see if there's anomalies happening across the county. So you can pick out areas where ratios maybe need to look at more closely. I think that's part of the pressing issue. A second pressing issue, quickly, and I'll probably address this later this evening, is Marty's misunderstanding of the roles of the assessor and of the knowledge that it takes in order to run the office. So hopefully I'll be able to clarify that a little bit later in the evening.
Okay. So you've each talked a little bit about what your priorities or issues were and a little bit about what you would do, but I'm going to ask you to speak a little bit more about what you would do to address those issues. So now Linda would go first this time, and then Marty after that.
Okay. So more to address the issues that are available, and that is, again, helping the public to become knowledgeable of what we do and what information we have available. We've utilized our website to do that. I've written a class for levies, for taxing district officials to be able to help them become knowledgeable in the process, to find out how does the value affect and not affect the levy calculation, how does new construction affect the levy calculation, and so on. So those are some ways that we are helping to educate. Another thing that I would like to pursue this next year is to attend some of the civics classes. I've got several teachers within the community that are interested in having our office or myself come in and speak to them about how the whole process works and how it's important to vote, what your vote can do, and how it, again, affects the process that we administer, the levy process that we administer. So I'm hoping to partner up with some of the different high schools to do that in the future. In addition, to go back, I'm afraid, to Marty's issue about knowledge. I have been trained by the Department of Revenue and by the International Association of Assessing Officers in mass appraisal. We do different types of work, Marty and I. So hopefully we'll be able to educate you and the public a little bit more about the differences between mass appraisal and fee appraisal.
Okay, thank you. Marty?
Yeah, I think that I agree that mass appraisal is different than individual house appraisals. However, the principle is still the same. It's value. And I think that the thing that's lacking at the assessor's office is the training of knowing how to establish market value, by looking at the sales and understanding the different quality types of houses, the different quality and materials that are being used. I think that the assessor staff is missing the boat. A lot of times when I go out and do individual appraisals on houses, I see continual inconsistencies between different houses that may be in the same neighborhood. And I think that if the assessor's office is doing the training they should be doing, that the market values should be fairly accurate because they have all the data. There's no reason for them not to know the most current sales of what's going on. So I think that training the staff and doing ride-alongs with them, I'm not going to be the kind of assessor that the people in the office are wondering what I'm doing all day. I'm going to be a hands-on type of person. I don't have that luxury now, and I don't think that should be this case in the office.
Time's up on that one. Good timing. Okay, now starting with Marty again on this one. What qualifies you for this office, and why are you the best candidate, and what is your educational background as part of that question?
Yeah. I have been a residential real estate appraiser for 30 years. I have over 500 hours of residential and real estate appraisal classes. I am in the field every day. I see the errors. I just did a house appraisal yesterday where the assessor's square footage was over 600 square feet off. And I couldn't believe it because the house is only a few years old, and they look at the public record, or they look at the plans when they do those, and they should have that. I see errors like that all the time. My experience being in construction as well, I have several rental houses that I manage, and I have remodeled several houses as well. So I know construction qualities. I'm out in the field every day. My experience is in the field experience. It's not working in an office, learning different things of, different aspects of the assessor's office. So I'm not running for the customer service department manager, and I'm not running for the segregation manager. I'm running for the assessor's position. And the assessor's job is to appraise property, and that's what I'll do. I'll make sure that that's done correctly and fair to everyone. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, Linda then.
Qualification and education background. I have a bachelor's degree from WSU in language arts and education. Graduated early with honors in doing so. I also have experience and education by the Department of Revenue. I've taken appraisal courses, I've taken mass appraisal courses, I've taken management courses. So education and background is quite extensive for that area. Qualifications, again, I have experience in every area, and the assessor does not just appraise properties. I oversee the department that does, and I have the knowledge base and the practical application of that knowledge base for mass appraisal. Mass appraisal is valuing groups of properties, not individual pieces of property. For a fee appraiser, you are visiting one property a day. That means you can, at the most, have 300 parcels that you have visited throughout the year. We value 300,000. So we're looking again at groups of properties, we are setting benchmarks, and we are looking at the statistics that show that we are doing a good job. Those statistics are available to you to see and view on our website.
Okay, and now Linda again. How has that training and experience prepared you to manage a large staff and a multi-million-dollar budget?
Well, for a government agency versus someone who has their own home business, you have certain requirements that you are expected to meet for federal requirements. But in a government agency, there are many more. There are FLESA requirements, there are ADA requirements, there are family medical leave requirements. There are so many different other areas that you need to be knowledgeable in to efficiently administer an office. So yes, appraisal experience is hugely important, and knowing the characteristics of a house is hugely important. However, I do have that knowledge, Marty, even though I have not made my living as a fee appraiser out in the field. So.
Okay, and then we'll move on to Marty for that question.
The question again is what?
How has your training and or experience prepared you to manage a large staff with a multi-million-dollar budget?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I don't have a large staff. I have one person that's worked for me. I've trained 3 other appraisers, and I know that in any big organization, like the assessor's office, there are managers. So the assessor doesn't actually manage 60 people. There's managers of each one of those departments, and if there's 6 or 7 departments, there's probably 6 or 7 managers that the assessor actually deals with. They don't have to manage 60 people. My experience of managing is, well, I have 8 children. I've coached T-ball in Little League, so I've managed a lot of little kids. I've taught Sunday school for many years to junior hires and high schoolers. I think I can manage 6 or 7 people and not have a problem. As far as the managing a multi-million-dollar budget, like I said, being a self-employed, I wear a lot of hats. I have 5 rental properties, as I've said, so I have a lot of management experience in that. I don't think that having a checkbook that has a bigger number after it makes any difference.
Okay, thank you. And now, one final question for both of you, and we'll start with you, Marty.
Okay.
And that is, what changes, if any, are needed in the department to streamline its interactions with other departments like the auditor's office or the treasurer's department or other county departments?
So streamlining, well, one thing that I noticed, because I use the assessor's website every day in my appraisal practice, is that when you're looking at zoning, you have to go to a different section. You have to go to the auditor's website to look up zoning. So I don't see why you have to leave a screen or leave one area of your website to go to a different area website to look up something. Another thing that I see is in their mapping department, the maps are not as easily accessible as they should be, and the sketches as well. When you pull up a sketch in the Snohomish County website, it's about 1 inch by 1 inch, and you have to keep pressing the plus button to get it to enlarge to be able to look at it. And because I do appraisals in Skagit County and King County, I look at the different websites and I think, why is this? Why are they making this so difficult? Why don't these counties get together, or at least Snohomish County, look at other websites and see what's a little bit easier to navigate? So I think there's things that need to be fixed, and there's ways to make it easier that the user of the product can utilize the system and not have to search for things. And so streamlining between, I think, just making sure that all the maps are on the same, making sure that you can click on things and find it on the assessor's website and not have to go to another website to look for it when it's actually assessor data that you need.
Okay, thank you. And Linda, you answer?
Thank you. Since I've been in office, in the assessor's office as chief deputy, we actually have implemented several streamlining measures. One of them is our combined customer service counter on the first floor of the new administration building. In doing so, we co-located the assessor, treasurer, and auditor all in one spot. So instead of the clientele having to go to various floors, they are now able to go to one place. We continue to work better and closer together because we are more physically located together. So now assessor staff can walk over if they're working on an open space application and talk to the treasurer, or if they're working on a senior exemption and there's a refund due, they can go over and talk to the treasurer. They can go over and talk to the auditor being on the same floor. And we also walk customers through that area. So that's a way we've done streamlining. Various other ways for streamlining, again, I agree with Marty, improving the website as best we can with customer feedback. Unfortunately, Marty has never contacted my office and said, I've had these issues with your website. If he had, we'd be more than happy to look at those particular issues and see what we can do to help him use the website more efficiently.
Okay, thank you for all those questions. And now we're going to move into the point where you each have a 1-minute statement. And so we'll start with Marty for that.
So I'm asking for your vote today because I believe that the assessor's position requires or demands someone that knows real estate and not just someone that's worked in an office. I have an ad in the newspaper that said, would you hire a contractor who's never swung a hammer? Well, why would you vote for an assessor who's never appraised a house? And I know that my opponent has a lot of experience working in the office, and she does a good job. It almost sounds as if our assessor today, Cindy Portman, doesn't do anything if my opponent is doing everything. So I believe that it's necessary to have experience, and I think that my experience as a real estate appraiser qualifies me to be a better assessor, to make sure that people are treated fair and that the market values are accurate. And when the property values go down, that I'll make sure that the assessed values are following that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Linda, 1 minute.
I am also asking for your vote, and I'm asking you to vote for experience and knowledge and for the person that can most easily apply their experience and knowledge, and that the knowledge is more applicable to what we do. I have mass appraisal experience and knowledge. Marty says I've never appraised a house. I have never gone out and done a fee appraisal for lending purposes like Marty has. I have been responsible for the assessed values and overseen all the benchmarks and so on for appraisal purposes. So yes, I do know what it is like to look at qualities of properties. I do know what it's like to value views versus lakefront property versus those properties that are in highly populated residential areas. So his statements are not fully true. So what I ask is that you do some research before you vote. Look at my website, look at my history. Come speak to me, and I can share with you more thoroughly the knowledge and experience that I have and the things that I have to offer the public. I will do a good job for you.
Okay, thank you to both of you. And we're going to now ask the city council candidates to come up, and we're going to have position 7 at this table, position 4 in the middle, and position 5 at the end. And you 6 folks, if you want to bring something to drink to the table, you could do that. Just we'll be careful of the mics. It'll take them a minute. The second 2 tables will have to turn their mics on. No, at each table, that's fine. Oh, good, you're getting some. What we'll do here, we're going to hear from Mr. George, who is speaking for Al Werda. So in a minute, he'll give a statement, but since he's not actually Al, he won't be able to answer questions. So he'll start, and then what we'll do, it's a little different with 6 people, so we'll start on this end and work our way down, and then we'll keep working our way down and giving people turns as they come up. Okay, just a minute, let me get questions. Okay, we're going to start with your 2-minute statements. So, Kay, if you would want to start, that would be great.
My name's Kay George, and I think in speaking to the people here in town, there are 3 major issues that dominate the campaign. And one is the security of our citizens, and our police force is part of that. Right now, I believe that a good opportunity would be to get a prosecutor. Now, the police can arrest the people, the bad doers, but nothing becomes of it, and people, the bad doers, have become accustomed to this. If we did have our own prosecutor, I think that, and people understood that Sultan was serious about crime, I think that that would make a big difference. So I advocate that heavily as far as security for our citizens. I know that a lot of the people have said that we need more police officers, and that may be true, but our existing police officers are not getting traction because when they do arrest somebody, they are not properly prosecuted. The prosecutor seems to have too many other things to do than deal with Sultan's specific problems. Another is the high utility costs. When I was a council person before, I focused on that. I ran on that, and I think I have made somewhat of a difference in the things that I became aware of during the time I was council person, and even since then. High utility fees are a big issue for every family and every household here in Sultan, and they need to be addressed. The city has cut garbage fees 10%, but unfortunately they cut the service 50%, and that's not a good value. And another is the expansion of city government. People are very concerned about that. They've seen the budget that go to the city hall staff, and they've also seen the budget that the sheriff get, and it's just not proportionate to what they need.
Okay, we'll move on to Mr. Beeler. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for giving us this forum to speak out, an opportunity to talk to you about what's going on. I've been in business for 27 years. I was self-employed. Moved out here in about 2000. And 7 years after I moved out here, some things changed in the city that got my attention. You know, for 7 years, I was just kind of sitting around, you know, just voting periodically, you know, and guessing who to vote for. And then I got onto a committee working with the city on stormwater. And I learned a lot of things about how the city has to do things because of the state mandates, because of people who, we're a small city, and there are large cities that are mandated to do things, and because we're part of the Puget Sound region, as a small city, we're also expected to do the same things as the big city. When the stormwater utility was being put together, the thing that brought my interest into it was the fees that the city brought up as what they were going to charge everybody. And there were these phenomenal fees. And I'm a resident, and the commercial end of things were going to be like 10 times those fees. And immediately I got a big concern. Okay, why are we being charged these fees? Because of being part of the committee, being the lead on the committee, we were able to direct the city into reducing those fees before the stormwater utility was implemented. And that was my main focus for joining the council, because shortly after that, an opening came up, and I decided, you know, it's a good reason for me to be on council is because I want to be there to protect the utility fees that are being charged to us citizens, because I pay those fees and I don't want to be overcharged. And that's why I joined as a city council member in 2009.
Okay, moving on to the next position. First person is Russell. Is it Russell Wida? Wida? Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Russell Wietz. I grew up here in Sultan, graduated from Sultan High School. I'm studying political science at the University of Washington and graduate this December. I was student representative on the city council when I was in high school, so I've actually been on the council, participated in the discussions, and seen how things happen. My opponents made comments about my age, saying I'm too young, and I don't think the people of Sultan care about age. I think it's experience they're looking for. I have helped lobby for the $500,000 grant that the city got for the Boys and Girls Club that was recently open. I've reached out to youth to get them more involved in Sultan. I have worked with Volunteers of America to give back to our community. I have not tried to disincorporate our city, and I have not sued the city and cost taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars. I've got positive experience working in the community and with the city that I can bring to the council. My platform, I've got 3 big points. Public safety, people need to feel safe in their homes, safe in their community. Fiscal responsibility, making sure the city's spending money properly, making sure that the city is open and transparent about how and why it's spending its money. And then economic development. We need to do everything we can to bring businesses, more residents to Sultan, and help grow our city. And we'll get more into those topics later, I'm sure. I just ask that when voters are deciding who they're going to vote for, they look at the facts and not fallacies that might be spread by other candidates. Thank you.
Okay. Is it Mr. Dalmasso? Is that right? All right.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you also to the League of Women Voters, School District, and the Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to speak tonight. I don't have a prepared statement, but my opponent here gave me a couple things to talk about. I promised I would not make his age or his inexperience an issue in his campaign, and I will not do it. I never said anything about his age. He did bring up my attempt previously to unincorporate the city, as if to think I was going to try to chop it up in little pieces and float it down the river. That intent was to try to lower the cost of living in the city of Sultan. At that time, I was inspecting pre-foreclosure homes, over 150 a month between Sultan and Skykomish. People were losing their homes, and we needed to find a way to be able to help them out so they could save those homes. And when we found out the people in Sultan did not want that, we immediately dropped that campaign. I have been in the real estate business since 1970. I'm a Washington native. I was born in Seattle, and I have lived in Washington my entire life, and I am 75 years old, at least for another 2 months. And my objective is to, and as it has been, is to lower the cost of government here in the city. I have served 5 years on the Planning Commission. I've also negotiated the purchase of the Visitor Center, which is also the Chamber of Commerce office at no cost to the city, and the skateboard park. I've served on numerous committees. I've had a lot of education, different college classes, both pertaining to real estate and general living. And my main objective is to lower the cost of living because people in this town are still suffering. There are still a lot of homes here that people are in danger of losing. And my second issue is, as Russell pointed out, is the safety of the people here. We need to do something to stop the drug traffic. I believe that nobody wins in a war, so I don't think a war is a proper terminology to call it, but there needs to be something done to give those people an alternative other than drugs. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the position number 5, Joe Nigel. Is that right?
That's great. That's
Okay,
great.
thank you.
I have to stand.
Okay.
Thank you. So, you know, saying that discounts my joke. I am standing. But still got some laughs. So my name is Joe Nigel. I'm a daddy of 5. I have all 5 children engaged in the Sultan School District. Their ages are 3 to 16. I've had the privilege of serving you on City Council since 2010. And I'm here to tell you something different than you may be hearing as the election ramps up. Sultan is blessed with a highly functional, highly respectful, and transparent city government. And your government puts the interests of the community far before they prioritize their own interests. I want to say that during my time in service to you, I've been a strong voice for living within our means. While I've been on City Council for the last 5 years, we've significantly reduced our debt, and we've achieved an A+ credit rating, which is incredible for a small city, particularly for any city in the throes of the recession, as Snohomish County was. I've been a strong voice for improving community safety. And I want to tell you that safety means more than just arresting your way out of an issue. We have adequate police services. Property crimes and crimes against people in our community are at historic lows. But how many of you know that? How many of our citizens know that? There's a power to perception that our community is missing, and we need to be doing more to promote the good things that are happening here. Sultan citizens are safe. And I've also been a strong voice for protecting our infrastructure. We bring millions of dollars of grant funding into the community every year to maintain and preserve our taxpayer assets. If we say no to that grant funding, we have no means to protect the infrastructure. We have issues here that are too big for us to fund on our own.
Okay, and we have Mr. George to give a statement for Alberta.
From Al, what are we to make of the current situation in the city of Sultan? If you're not satisfied with the way the city is spending your hard-earned money, vote for me. The current city council votes in lockstep with whatever the city staff and workers and administration asked for. I believe in smaller and more efficient government. I believe in outsourcing to private enterprise when it makes sense to do so, as in garbage service. I have no issue with the quality of service we have, but I object that it costs us almost twice as much. I believe that most of our city residents spend their money conservatively. Shouldn't we expect the city to do the same? The current city council has made some extremely poor financial decisions, and if elected, I will work to hold the council accountable for the way in which your hard-earned money is spent. I have lived in and owned my business in Sultan for 32 years. I understand fiscal responsibility and don't see much of it in the way that the city of Sultan operates. That will change if you elect me to the city council.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we will now move into the question and answer period, and as I said, we'll move down the road, so the first person to respond will be Mr. Beeler, and he'll have 90 seconds, and then as we go down, and then back to you at 60 seconds, okay? So question number 1, some people think we need more police in Sultan. This has been mentioned a little bit, so gives everyone a chance to talk about it. Do you feel that there has been an increase in crime, and is an increase in police the best response to this increase?
do we need more police? I've been one of those on the council that was right there at the time when we were switching over to Snohomish County Sheriff. The city was paying out over $1 million, I think it was $1.2 million in Sultan Police Services, having our own Sultan Police Department. And there were some really interesting issues going on inside the police department that could have caused the city quite a bit of money in lawsuits. In fact, they did go through some lawsuits that cost money. And transitioning out of that situation and switching over to Snohomish County Sheriff, at first I was against. I thought this is a city, a little town, we're proud of our own police force. But ultimately, switching over to Snohomish County Sheriff has saved us over $300,000 a year. Right now our budget is roughly over shortly over $900,000. And they've become a partner with us. And in fact, I know that there's someone here in the audience that can probably protest to you, or not protest, could agree with me saying, you know, it takes time to work on issues, getting rid of those bad people that are in town. But consistency, which is what the Snohomish County Sheriff provided, eventually will be taken care of and has taken care of several of these issues. As mentioned before, the staff brought up to us on council, we should have our own prosecutor, because the only way to get these bad people out of town is to actually punish them, which isn't currently happening, and that's been the biggest issue. So because of staff bringing to the council the issues of a prosecutor, we are going to be looking at doing our own prosecution services.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to Mr. Wida.
Thank you. The increase in crime hasn't been increasing. Since 2009, burglaries have dropped 61%, malicious mischief dropped 72%, robbery 50%, theft 63%, and vehicle theft 62%. So crimes are going down. Our deputies do a good job. But what I think we can do is bring those numbers even lower by refocusing efforts on drug crimes, property crimes, rather than the highway. You know, we need to discourage people from speeding, but there's other crimes that I think affect people more. And when I've been going door to door, as I have the last few weekends, I've been hearing that, and those are the crimes that people are concerned with. So refocusing efforts on those, I think, is really important, and open to the idea of a prosecutor for the city, because I know, talking to a lot of different people, that's one of the biggest obstacles we face, is that the Snohomish County prosecutor has got not enough staff and too much to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dalmasso?
Well, I think the police department that we have now, the sheriff is doing a pretty good job. I'm probably the only one here that both lives and works full-time in the city, so I'm here 24 hours a day, and I do see them patrolling the streets on a very regular basis. I'll look out the window of my house and a police car will be going by, or I'll be down in my former office on Main Street and I'll see the police officer there. As a real estate broker and managing estate property, I've had occasion to call the police department in the last several months to get trespassers off the property, and they have been extremely responsive. I think that the police department here has been getting a bad grade from a lot of people, and in fact they deserve a good grade. I too, like Mr. Beeler, was opposed to it when it was first brought up, but as it has happened, I'm very much supportive of the police department, and I want to thank them for the work they've done.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nigel?
Thank you. So I'll be succinct. Russell said this. He had the numbers. Property crimes, burglaries, crimes against people are all down. They're at historic lows. Our police force isn't doing a good job. They're doing an amazing job. They are responsive. One advantage that we have contracting with Snohomish County Sheriffs is that we leverage more than we can afford in this community. By having the East Precinct located right on Main Street in Sultan, we have 28 deputies who stop in here at least once per day. No other city up and down the valley has that much access to law enforcement services. And our law enforcement providers also know that you can't arrest yourself out of an issue. They've empowered local block watch, they've empowered local citizens, and they're training our neighbors on how to live a safe life, how to keep the community safe for others.
Okay, next, last person would be Ms. George.
Yes, I'm going to be unanimous here and say I think that the Sheriff's Office does do a fabulous job. But again, they can only do so much. And after they arrest people, then if they're not prosecuted, this becomes known. So it's really important that we look into getting a prosecutor. And so much of the crime is done by the same people. A lot of people that are homeless here in our community. And I think that the efforts that the city has gone forward with to kind of clean up the people in the bushes and the homeless people has paid off. And drugs are a big issue for these people, and so is alcoholism, and they are being offered a choice as to whether they can get help through the city or if they want to continue to be homeless. So and a lot of people just would prefer to be homeless and petty theft for a living, and that happens. So I'm grateful for the sheriff's office and their services to us.
Yeah, and now question number 2, what would you do to promote economic development? And that goes to Mr. Wida.
Thank you. I think one of the big things we need to focus on is making sure that everything's efficient at City Hall. Permitting processes, the fees that are being charged, which falls down onto the council. The city shouldn't make money on fees. We should only charge how much it costs. And I think one of the things that'll help economic development is having a safe city. Residents and businesses want to move here if it's safe. And that's, we've talked about it is safe. The crime has gone down, but promoting that, talking to people and getting the word out that, things are not bad, things are getting a lot better. And so I think those kinds of things would help bring businesses and new residents in. I think also maybe looking at another industrial park. I think those are the kinds of jobs that a lot of people out here are qualified for and might be looking to take. The Main Street approach, people just aren't coming off the highway. We've tried for years to get people going over the pass to get off the highway, come visit our local shops. Some do, but a lot don't. So I think that's something that has been tried, hasn't necessarily been successful so much in the past. And one more thing on public safety I forgot was we need to make sure that we're only being charged for crimes that happen within city limits. Because we contract with the sheriffs, the dispatchers sometimes mark the number, the incident numbers wrong, and that's something we could fix to save money.
Thank you. Mr. Dalmaso?
Thank you. I see economic development as to what's going to bring money into the community to help pay for it. And I think, you may not like my answer, but I think what we need to do is attract a major box store here, such as Walmart. Walmart typically generates $500,000 a year in tax revenue for whatever city they're in. Had they come here, perhaps we would be getting that now. The citizens typically don't pay as much in property taxes. They don't pay as much for utilities as do businesses, and they pay far more than the share of what we as citizens pay. And if we had retailers in here and a reason for people to get off the highway, then we would not be paying the high utilities bills we're paying, and life would be a lot easier to live in this community financially. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nigel?
Thank you. I believe one of the primary roles in government, providing opportunities for economic development really comes down to maintaining economic stability. We do that by paying down our debt, and it's been a focus of the council for at least the last 5 years, probably before me as well. Our current debt payments are around 11% of our general fund, which is well within state auditor guidelines. In fact, while most communities were suffering through the recession, we were getting stronger and stronger. In addition to maintaining economic stability, I also believe we have the duty to preserve property rights, both for our residents and for our commercial partners in the community. And we do that by saying no to intrusive programs and other things that often come across our desk on City Council.
Okay, question to you, Ms. George.
Yes. One of the things I think we can do better on is applying the law evenly. And that has been an issue here in our community that has made some people decide that, gosh, it's just not good. It's not worth it to do business here in Sultan. I had a client yesterday that asked me, well, I told him about this property. He says, well, where is it? I said, it's just outside the city limits. He said, good, I'd be dealing with Snohomish County. I'll take a look at that property. So we need to streamline City Hall to where the rules are fair to everyone and apply that evenly and not just to a few chosen people. So I think that's a big issue here.
Okay, and finally, to you, Mr. Beeler.
Thank you. One of the things that we've been working on as a council is the rules and regulations that builders have to follow in order to build homes here in the city. We've had things on the books for over 20 years that have been amended and amended and amended, and unfortunately now it's gotten to a point where some of those amendments conflict with the other rules in the books because things weren't thought through clearly, and it causes issues when a builder or a developer comes in and they try to ask questions. Well, what about this? And they say, well, then you get it. Obviously there's confusion. So that's one of the things that we've been working on, and I am continuing to strive with, is that we get our rules and regulations, our ordinances put together properly. We're in the midst of that. When it comes to pulling people off this highway, I've been out here for 15 years, and I heard it before I was even out here. It's hard to pull people off this, off this highway into our community because there's not a lot here. This is more of a bedroom community. And until we have a lot more people, the big boxes aren't going to move out here, and that's what they've told us.
Thank you very much. Okay, so everyone's had a turn for this question. For number 3, we'll start with Mr. Del Maso, and the question's kind of long. The questioner has heard that the city staff has brought in millions of dollars in grant money that helps to pay for vital infrastructure work. We are also hearing that talk of making large cuts to the staff. What do you believe these staff cuts would do to our ability to compete for grant funds in the future?
I don't know that they're necessarily tied to one another. We have a fantastic grant writer working for us by the name of Donna Murphy. I know of her and have known her for a period of time, and I know she does a great job. Staff reductions, the ones that are being proposed, I think, are typically in the utilities, and by hiring out to private entities such as the garbage service was one of the suggestions for the staff reduction. And I'm sure that would have zero to do with grant receptions. And unfortunately, I think we need to have the grants because we don't have enough other income to be able to provide the things that are needed, as several of the people have mentioned tonight. I would like to see us providing more of our stuff and getting less dependent on grants. I just feel that's kind of a glorified way of welfare in a way. And I would like to see us stand on our own 2 feet and be able to provide for ourselves.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Nigel?
Thank you. So there's a common misperception, I think, that circulates in this community that there's a lot of fat to trim at City Hall. I want to assure you that we run a lean and efficient operation at City Hall. All of our professionals who work for you wear multiple hats, where in most communities, those hats would belong to individual people. Let me also tell you that there's been some conversation about having garbage rates, and I can assure you that that is not possible. Snohomish, the city of Snohomish, is in year 1 of a 4-year contract with Waste Management, and they pay $5 more than we do for garbage and recycling. This is a pipe dream. But I do want to say that one opportunity we have in sharing staff between different funds and different utilities is that we can attract qualified full-time candidates and limit our turnover so that we have a strong continuity of service. If we cut our utilities, if we hatchet the city services, it's going to impact you, and it's going to impact you dramatically.
Thank you. Moving on to Ms. George.
Yes, I don't think the two of those are at all related. We do have our good grant writer, and Donna Murphy. She's been here for years, and I just think that those are two unrelated subjects, actually. What it would do to the staffing at City Hall versus if we didn't get it. We need those grants. We're not a wealthy community, and I'd like to see us like Mr. Del Maso say, stand on our own 2 feet. But until then, we need those grants, and I just don't see it having anything to do. Most of the grants are for infrastructure that we get, and I don't see the two related very, very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Beeler?
Thank you. Interesting combination question there, because I think Ms. George hit it on the head, which is the grant money and the staff cuts really don't relate to each other in a larger respect. The issue I have with the things that have been circulating in the city about cutting staff or grant money or anything of that nature, particularly my opponent, I heard her say we need those monies, and yet I've also heard her say, why are we taking those monies? So I'm confused about what she's saying here, because I believe she believes more what Bart Damaso said, which is we shouldn't be overburdening our citizens with taxes and things of that nature, because they want less taxes and less utility fees, which I agree with. The issue I have with my associate here is that back when she was on the council, she loved to approve grant contracts, but then she never, I repeat, never approved paying for the service that we got. So think about that when you do your vote.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Wida?
Yeah, the grant money that the city gets, that's our money. It was taken by some other level of government. We're just taking it back. So as far as that goes, you know, we need the money for the projects. We need the money to expand growth and expand capacity for the city. As far as staff at City Hall, and my opponent and the people he's running with have talked about salaries being too high at City Hall, and that's something I just want to clarify. Yeah, there are staff at City Hall that make more money than people in our community, but you have to understand Sultan is subject to the same regulations as Seattle, as cities way bigger than ours. And so in order to follow the law, follow the regulations, we have to have staff that are trained and are competitive so that we aren't opening ourselves up for lawsuits and we can run our city effectively. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, the next question, we'll start with Mr. Nigel, and this is a long one, but not quite as long as the last one. The questioner has heard that the city contributed $500 to the school district this year to help pay for the school resource officer. Do you believe this is beneficial to the taxpayers? Yes or no, and why?
I will say this is the first time that I've heard we've given $500 in order to support the school resource officer. If that's all we gave, that's a pretty significant bargain. Student safety impacts attendance, it impacts graduation rates, and if we can do more to make our students feel safe, as gangs are starting to become resurgent in the Valley, as drugs and alcohol impact students' use rates, I think that's great. A school resource officer has a fundamentally different role than a street deputy. They're there to improve. They're there to improve feelings of safety, and they're there to hold kids accountable before their burgeoning issues grow into issues that drain funding away from society. I also want to say, since I actually have 90 seconds this time, that's like 50% more time, that Russell Weeda's family sitting back there, I got to meet them tonight. You guys should be so proud. What an impressive young man. Russell, I'm going to vote for you.
Okay, moving on to Ms. George.
Yes, I do think that that is a bargain, and the resource officers in the school help so much in just making themselves known and having a presence there in the schools. Kids need to understand that police officers are their friends, and I think that that is missed a lot in teaching children that today. And so I think that if we only gave $500 for that resource officer, what a bargain. I agree.
Okay, moving on. Mr. Beeler?
Thank you. If anybody knows the salary of a sheriff in this town, it takes about $100,000 to employ a Snohomish County Sheriff deputy in our community. I believe the number is actually $5,000 that the city contributed to help out the school district fund that resource officer, which is a great place for an officer to be, because with what we heard again today down in Oregon, we had another shooting at a school. And what a better place to have a police officer who can be there to be able to approach that subject, or to shelter those kids when they need it, and somebody who can respond immediately because they have a firearm on their side. So that's really important. In fact, one of the things we've been talking about, and Rocky's been talking about it here on council, is that why can't we fund that officer during the 3 months that he has to go away for summer because he's only on staff for 9 months. And that's a very short, very small amount that the city can do on the budget side. So take $100,000, that's probably about maybe $20,000 that we could add to the budget to add an additional police officer for 3 more months out of the year. That's what
Thank
we
you
do
very
on
much.
city council.
Mr. Weeda?
Yeah, I had also heard it's $5,000, and I think that's a great investment. I know when I was in high school, having the resource officer there was great for not just when incidents came up, but for anyone to approach for any questions that they had about law enforcement, about the rules, about the law. So it's a great investment. It's a great deal for the city. And I think that Jeff's proposal is great to bring that officer on full-time for the city during the summer hours or summer months while students are not at the school. They're out in the community. So not during school, what better use of that officer than to have them helping out the deputies that are already assigned to the city. So I think that's a great idea and definitely think it's a good use of money. And thank you for your kind comments, Joe.
Okay, Mr. Damaso?
Thank you. I'm going to make this very short. Whether it's 500 or 5,000, I think is a bargain. The value of one human life, if that officer saves it, is far more than that.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to move on to a question that we've kind of touched on during the evening, but this asks for a specific number. What would you say are the 3 major issues facing your city or town? And I think it starts with you again, Ms. George.
I said that from the very beginning, and the 3 major issues are the security of our citizens, and the second is the salaries and numbers at City Hall, and the third is the high utility rates that we have been paying over the years. And I've seen ways that we could cut them, and I would like to encourage you to vote for me so that we could implement those if possible.
Okay, Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you. Yeah, we hear about the police services. Security is definitely an issue. I'll go back to the idea, which is, staff says we should be prosecuting these people, and Snohomish County isn't. So that's why the city is looking at hiring our own prosecutor. Adding an additional police officer, particularly, like I said, during the summertime, use that resource officer to help us out in the summer for the kids that are just kind of flying around town doing nothing now because they don't have school to go to, and that officer knows those people. Infrastructure. Grant money is a huge, huge deal for First Street, High Street, 4th Street. You've seen these projects going on in the last few years. Sultan Basin Road, we had that done here recently. Those are grant fund monies. Those are monies that we couldn't come up with. People talk about $20 car tabs. We could implement that as a council, but we have chosen not to because we don't think you guys want it. And if we ever come to that decision, we're going to ask you guys first because we don't think it's our choice, it's your choice as to whether or not I have those car tabs. But that money could be used to help us with infrastructure. We got that dip on 3rd. Everybody knows it. We want to fix it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Weeda?
So fiscal responsibility, public safety, economic development. Those are my 3 main points. We've talked a lot about public safety. We've talked a little bit about economic development. The fiscal responsibility part of it, I think the city's doing a great job. And if I was on council, I'd be able to sit down, look at all the numbers closely whenever we come up with a budget and make sure that we continue doing a good job. And maybe there's some places that we could change. What concerns me is some of the rhetoric that's spread around town during this campaign about waste at City Hall, about things, fees being too high. These issues and these people who have brought up these issues have been in front of the voters before, and they've lost. The voters have said, we don't agree with you, and I think that the voters know best. So those are my 3 issues. I'm happy to talk more one-on-one if you'd like, and thank you.
Okay, Mr. Damaso.
My 3 issues in no order of importance are the streets in this town are in dire need of repair, and unfortunately the grant funds that we get will not cover them because they are not arterials. Public safety is a drug issue in this community. It's not universal to Sultan. It's universal. It's not just Sultan. It's everywhere. We need to find something for those kids, young folks, which is mostly young folks in the drug part of it, that we need to find something for them to do to take their mind off those drugs, get them into rehab, and get them straightened around. And then the 3rd issue is economic development. And with proper economic development, we will then have the money to be able to fix the streets like 3rd Street and Dyer Road and the other ones that are in dire need of repair. And somebody mentioned that our demographics are not such that we don't have enough population here. The typical demographic circle is drawn as the circle around the area. Our marketing area is not circular. It is oblong, all the way from partway to Monroe, all the way to Skycomish. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Nigel?
Thank you. So 3 issues I think we should be identifying here, or that we should be prioritizing, is that we continue to live within our means. We have built amazing momentum, paying down our debt. We need to continue on that course. We need to continue to preserve and repair our infrastructure, as Mr. Dalmaso and other candidates have suggested. And we need to preserve the character of our community as we grow and we move into the coming years. I want to say that this election is a decisive election for our community. There's a group of challengers who are running against incumbents who are in ideological lockstep on how to carve up city services. I don't believe that they consider the unintended consequences of their actions, which is why some of their first responses have been to band together to disincorporate the city, to tie the city up in years-long lawsuits that consume your tax dollars. You need to vote for incumbents because we've been on a good path and we'll continue to stay on that path.
Thank you very much. I forget, you had a turn for that one, Ms. George.
I believe so.
All right, so we're going to start again for the finalize with the 1-minute statement, and we will start with Mr. Beeler.
Thank you. Remember, when you're voting out there, who you're voting for. My opponent, when she was on council, approved contracts but never paid people. My opponent wasn't transparent. When she did her emails for the city, we can't get those from her. She kept them for herself on her own laptop, and the city's now in a liability because we can't fund, or we can't get those public information requests fulfilled by people who ask, where are her emails? Number 3, back in June when we were talking about running for our spot, Miss George and Mr. McCarthy, who sits on council now, came out to me and said, if you agree with us and vote with us, we won't run somebody against you. I told her no. She's here. Remember, when you're voting, we want somebody who will do the job, do it right, and not try to screw us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to Mr. Rita.
Thank you. I grew up in Sultan. I'm familiar with the community. I'm familiar with the issues. I've worked on numerous different levels with the state, with the city, my time at UW, my time in high school, and I think one of the big things that we face as a city, and this is cost, is the regulations that come down from the state. I have experienced lobbying for different groups, lobbying the legislature and getting results. Until we get things changed at the state level, we're going to have high costs to do anything in this city. So that's another thing that we didn't really talk about a lot, but I think should be a priority. The city does a good job lobbying, and I'm hoping to add to that effort once I'm elected to the council. My platform, my experience. I have had a positive relationship with this community, with the city, which is, I think, what distinguishes me and my opponent. And I think that the choice is clear on who would best represent you on the city council. Please vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dalmaso.
Thank you. We heard people talk about how the city pays its bills, but unfortunately they've been paying the bills on the back of the citizens. A lot of the people that were here 7, 8 years ago have lost their house and have moved on. Some have become homeless, and some have moved to other communities. I ran across a builder in Monroe several years ago while I was showing property. I said, why don't you come to Sultan? He said, I don't want to go there, it's too difficult. I had a sale last year of a piece of property for $60,000 in Sultan. The guy went down to City Hall to find out what it was going to cost to build a house. He was told it was about $31,000 in permit and impact fees. He says, I can't afford that, and walked away from it. We need to develop this town. We need to find ways to promote our community and make it a desirable place in all ways. We have some of the finest people in the world that live in this community, and we need to reward them, not punish them.
Thank you.
So my 6-year-old daughter, Morgan, is in 1st grade at Sultan Elementary School. She's playing with literacy. And she gave me an opportunity to tell you a quick story, and I'm going to share that with you. So this Sunday, we're going on a daddy-daughter date. That's our custom. We have 5 kids. We give individual time to each of our kids. And she made an itemized list of all the things that we're going to do on Sunday. If we do everything, it's going to cost us a couple $1,000s. So as her daddy, I said, Morgan, look at your list, and it was all numbered, 20 different things. What's the most important thing that you want to do on the list? And she looked at the list, and she said, come home. Come home. Come home was on her list. That was the most important thing to her. Sultan's my home. Sultan's her home. She's why I've served you for the last 5 years. I'm not going to ask you to vote for me. I'm going to ask you to cast a vote that positions her well as she grows up in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. George?
Yes. Just today, I got the Republic prices versus the Sultan prices, and I have that list here, and you can see that there would be significant savings if, in fact, we were to go to private garbage. And it's not a lot per household, but you times that by 12, and then you times it by the number of people that are here in the number of households that are here in Sultan, and you can see why they're fighting so hard not to go to private garbage. Somebody who believes in big government thinks that any cut in government is destroying the community, and that's just not true, and that's not what we're trying to do. So I ask for your vote, and I hope that you can see that we need a change here in Sultan. Thank you.
Okay. I want to thank all of the city council candidates for a lot of information. We'll wait till the end for applause for everybody. And if they want to take their seats, you 4 on the end, if you will turn off your microphones, that would help us a lot. And if the mayoral candidates will come up. My helper's in trouble. He started the applause. I'll talk with him later. If you two will sit at these seats there. Good, you have something to drink, yes. And I see he's getting some. That's good. Okay, as we've set up on the program, even though I'm going to go in reverse order from before, but we're starting with people alphabetically. I don't know that that's always fair. I was a D for most of my life. Now I'm a T. You know, it's like, okay, that was a bad change in having my turn. Okay, so the first thing we'll have is the 2-minute statement, and we'll start with Ms. Eslick.
Thank you. I am Carolyn Eslick, and I am the mayor for the city of Sultan, and I have been mayor for 8 years. Before that, I was on city council for 6. And the reason I ran for mayor was because I was living in downtown Sultan, and there was a burglary, in-house burglary, in my neighbor's house who were senior citizens. I was devastated to hear what was going on and to see what was going on. At that time, we had 12 officers on our police force. Crime was terrible. We also had about 15 to 20 kids hanging out on 4th and Main. We also had 30 to 40 homeless people living across the river. Today, we don't have that, and crime is down. During my time as being mayor, I helped to negotiate the sirens that are in use today with PUD. PUD did not want to give us any money for sirens. They did not want to equip us with sirens. And yet we all living in Sultan knew that that could be a real hazard for us. And we made sure that there was a $250,000 grant given to us, and we were to use it for sirens, which there are now 4 implemented here. During my time as mayor, I've saw to it that we have reduced our loans. I started Block Watch before I became mayor because of the issues we were having on the streets, We needed more eyes and ears, and I knew we were not getting it from the police department at that time. So I'd heard about Block Watch, I called some people, we organized it, and it's going strong today. I also started the volunteer program. I see some of you folks out in the audience. We would not be in the great spot that we are in today without those volunteers. They are every week checking our parks, cleaning up streets. We have Adopt a Park, Adopt a Street. We have got the best community in the world, in my opinion, and I love to be the mayor for the city of Sultan.
Thank you. Mr. George.
I believe you deserve to expect more, particularly in accountability for wise spending of your money and prioritizing the spending. We keep hearing we can't afford another law enforcement officer or a prosecutor. We haven't got the money for it, but somehow we got in the budget this year money to remodel City Hall so all the employees have private offices. And, you know, I heard a council woman once, there was an issue about $20,000, which to me was not needed. She explained to me, Mr. George, it sounds like a lot of money, but spread amongst all the households, it really isn't very much. To me, every time we waste $50,000 on something we don't need, that could pay for a law enforcement officer for another 6 months. We also, I think we've spent money on expensive equipment without proper evaluation that is not used proportionate to what we're spending for. I'd also see a pattern developed of borrowing for engineering design, some hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've heard about paying down this debt. I think that was the $1 million loan we borrowed 2005 for a 50% engineering study, which was a complete waste. It was money down the drain because we didn't have construction money to go forward with the project it was for. And that's helped keep your sewer bills high for paying that off. We're entering a similar situation with this pedestrian bridge. We've got $655,000 out there we're going to have to pay back that we've spent if we don't get construction money. None in sight. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. George, you will get the first question, so you'll have the 90 seconds, and then Ms. Eslick will have a minute. Question number one is, what are the 3 major issues facing your city or town, and which one do you think would be the most important?
I think the major issue, and everybody I talk to and from what I see, is law enforcement. And like's been mentioned earlier, we need to look at prosecuting some of these crimes. Officers are getting discouraged making arrests, and the perpetrators are through the revolving door before they can fill out their report. So that is definitely something we need to work on. I think that's the top priority. Another priority for me, I've studied quite a bit, is this pedestrian bridge. I think we have a real issue there. That we have, we're either going to have to pay that grant money back or find construction money somewhere, someone to give us something. It's going to be probably, I'm guessing, around $5 million. And there is no funding source that is secured right now. So that's a problem that has to be solved.
Okay, Ms. Eslick?
3 most important issues that we have facing us is the continued problem we have with the heroin on the streets. It's a crisis in Snohomish County. It's a crisis in our community. We need places to send these people. And it's a county-wide problem, not just our problem. Our other issue is we need more things for our kids to do. And we did just build a wonderful Boys and Girls Club, and we did just get the full funding to add the second phase, which will be a gymnasium. I'm very excited for that. I'm very excited to be able to go next week at 3 o'clock on Thursday and sit at the round table with these teens at the Boys and Girls Club and hear what they have to say about our city. The other issue that we've got is community building. We've got to continue to build our community to make it safer for our families, and that means more involvement in our downtown and more involvement of our family coming to town and playing. It is about playing and enjoying our community. That will help to eliminate the crime because we've got more people in our downtown.
Thank you very much. And Mr. George? Did you answer that already? Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. It's getting to be a long evening. Okay, so you get to start again for question number 2, and it's kind of 2 parts. Okay, Snohomish County Council recently enacted a new master plan in accordance with the State of Washington Growth Management Act. So the question is about, will this new plan have a positive or negative effect on Sultan? And if positive, what would you do to capitalize on it? Or if negative, what would you do to ameliorate the negative effects? It's a lot. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that.
You're not familiar with that?
Me neither.
You're not familiar with that either? Okay. We'll move on then to the next question, which we'll let Mr. George have again. Let me make a note here. All right. She said she's not familiar with it either. Oh, okay, since we didn't speak to it. All right, Carolyn will go first. Never mind.
Thanks.
Okay. Next question. Do you think it's important to have a new police officer or additional police officers? What about a prosecutor for Sultan?
Absolutely. We need a new prosecutor for the city of Sultan. It was our professional and educated staff that brought this idea to City Council and to me. It makes sense when we looked at the bills and found out that lots of those folks are not being prosecuted. We must get a prosecutor that's going to do the job, and we're going to be able to put them away. You know, it's a fact with these, as they call them, frequent flyers, that they can get away with it in Sultan. They're only going to do a couple days in jail, and they get some clean clothes, and they get food, and they get a warm bed and a shower. Then they're back on the streets doing what they do. So yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And to you, Mr. George.
I think you'd find little disagreement between any of the candidates on the need for a prosecutor and the positive effect that would have. As far as another police officer, I haven't discussed this with the police, anyone on the police force, but I believe from talking to people deeper into town where there is property crime that may not always be reported, but I sure hear a lot of people complaining about it. And if we had another police officer that could work during the day, say 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, when everybody else is out of town working and the houses are vacant, I believe that would be a deterrent, because there's only one officer at any one time to cover the whole town.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. George, you'll start this time. And the question is, Sultan has a large homeless population. What strategies should be used to alleviate this problem?
That's a difficult issue, and it's difficult because the population is diverse for different reasons. We've got some people who are mentally ill. There's really not a lot I think you can do with that. You can pick them up if they're being disorderly, but they have rights, and the laws are such that they cannot be involuntarily committed anymore. And I don't know what the solution to that one is. We've got drug addicts. We're probably also committing property damage. That goes to the law enforcement issues we've been discussing. You've also got some people that just choose to live that way. They always have, and they always will. And we just have to keep trying to keep tabs on them and keep them from causing trouble. Well, one of the things that the city has been working on is trying to discourage people from other towns that come in to hand out their free stuff here instead of so the people who come here to get it. And I know the mayors and the city administrator have been working on that.
Okay. Ms. Eslick?
The homeless issue is nothing like it was 8 years ago when I took office. Nothing. What we didn't see it as prevalent because they were living across the river. They came over one at a time. Our economy has just devastated our young men between the ages of 18 and 27. There were no jobs for them for the last 8 years. They were running amok. It is a crisis for us in our society. If you want to see homeless, go down to Seattle. in those parks. There are hundreds of the people sleeping in those parks. We work daily with Volunteers of America to help the folks that are here on the streets. Not one of those folks that you have seen have been without services. They've all been approached. They've all been given the opportunity for services. The ones that you see choose not to do it. Now, there's a lot of mentally ill involved, and we need to do something about that in our society. And if it means adding another percentage to our sales tax to help house some of these folks, I think that's what we need to do.
Thank you very much. Okay, now you get the next question. Why did you decide to run for office, for this office?
For this office this time or this office last time?
Whatever you want to say.
The reason I have decided, at this point last year, I was not going to run again as mayor. And I did run for county executive. I lost in the primary, and thank God I did. I would just like to say that. I love this community. It is important that we move and continue to go in the direction that we have been going. We have an expert professional staff. Do they get paid well? I sure hope so, because their budget is a big budget, and they need to know how to handle it. And we can't let people that are not professional handle our money. It's just, it just isn't. If you own a big business, you hire the right people for the right jobs, and that's what we've done. And we are slim and trim in our city hall. Everybody does more than their share of work. And if you want to come and take a tour anytime, I'll be glad to give you a tour and give you the information and the job description of everyone there. They are an amazing group of people. I wouldn't want to be working with anybody else. I'm thrilled to be in this position. If I don't make it this time, that's okay. I spent 8 years doing what I love, and I want to do it another 4. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. George?
I decided to run for this office because I've watched for many years some very poor decisions made on spending, and I think, that needs to be corrected. I think you deserve your money to be more wisely spent and have better accountability. I disagree that it's slim and trim. I think there's a lot of waste that I've seen. We do have good employees, not take that out of anybody personally, but I think there's things that could be done to trim the fat down there, and to reorganize, realign priorities for spending. We're buying a lot of equipment that's not being used much, proportionate to what we're spending, and I think I have the experience traveling 5 different continents, managing big projects over the last many years. I know how to do that, and I would do a good job.
Okay, we're going to have our last question here before the final 1-minute statements. Mr. George, it'll go to you first, and it is, what is unique about your city?
Sorry?
What is unique about Sultan, about your city?
What's unique about it? Well, the scenic beauty is great. I think I came originally, I've been here since '96, I think. We came from a bigger city, and I was a little, it seemed to me a different combination of people than I used to see in the city, but I think it's because everybody's kind of compacted in a smaller group. But it's been a great community, made a lot of friends. It's some ways a divided community, but very active, participating in things, and I think it's got great potential.
Okay, and Ms. Eslick?
So I moved here in 1979 to buy a business, and before I actually took the business over, I went down to the post office to purchase a postal box, and people on the street said hello to me. I had not had that before. I came from the city of Portland. Nobody spoke to you. They didn't even look at you in the eye. So I think the uniqueness of our city, not only because of our mountains are so gorgeous, but our community and our community building and the neighbors that we have here. Everyone cares about everyone. We look out for each other. It's amazing what we've got here in this community. And on top of that, our elementary school has had 4 achievement awards in the last 4 years. That's amazing. and we're continuing and striving for better schools all the time. Our economy is getting better. We have lots of building going on the Sultan Basin Road. I don't know where we're getting the idea that we're not growing. My gosh, we have over 60 permits and an apartment house going up. We are growing.
Thank
and
you.
You better look out.
Thank you very much. Catch your breath because you get to go next for your 1-minute statement. Thank you.
So again, I'm all about community building, and I think parks and park equipment and the dog park that's going in, I think all of those that will really help to build our community even bigger and stronger than it is. We need to involve our children more. We need to be introducing our kids to what government's about. And in fact, when I took office 8 years ago, every year I came to the high school and spent time with them and explained to them what the mayor's position was. It's amazing how many of the kids don't know that the government runs their town. I love the city of Sultan, and again, I will continue to do the best job I can. I believe in integrity, I believe in transparency, and so does our staff. We do greet people at the door with a big smile on our face, and we say, hi, what can we do for you? Oh, do you have a problem? Let's help it. Let's help you, and let's figure out how to change it and how to fix it. That's what we're about.
Thank you very much. And Mr. George.
I believe the first responsibility of the city is to the people who use its basic services and to those that provide the tax revenues to provide those services. Unfortunately, I've talked to many business owners and many people who have tried to invest in this community, and they've had very unpleasant and heavy-handed experiences with the city. And I think that needs to be turned around. If the community wants to grow, have economic development, investors are going to go where they're welcome, and they're going to stay where they're treated well. And I think we have a bad reputation in the area, and I think that needs to change.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now I want to ask the whole audience now, let's give a big thanks to all of our candidates. You know, in moderating these forums and helping with these forums, I've really come to understand that it takes a lot of time and effort to be a candidate. So personally, and from the League of Women Voters, I want to thank all you candidates for all your time and effort. It's wonderful. The rest of you for being here, and I'm going to remind you of a couple things. In the off chance that somebody's not registered, you want to hurry up because you have to do it by October 5th. There are a few forms on our table. Then you're going to be getting your ballots around the middle of the month. Then you got to put them in the mail because Election Day is November 3rd. And all these people want you to vote, right? And so encourage your friends, your family to vote, and thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.